I think you know. Na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Hey, I should probably explain this challenge because it can get a little complicated. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to take your copy of Dark Souls 3 here. Just let me open it up. And what you notice is you actually have Dark Souls 1 inside of Dark Souls 3. So you're going to want to get that out of there, because we don't need that. And what the hell? Dark Souls 2? God damn it, we want that out of there too. We don't need any of that. Alright, there we go. And now we should only be left with Dark Souls 3. Let's do this. Starting out, we need to choose a class. And already, the rabbit hole runs deep. We're going to be starved for choice in this run, so we'll want to choose a class that opens as many doors as possible. The more options we have, the less likely we get stuck farming items or punching bosses with our fists. Out of all 10 classes, 3 are unique to Dark Souls 3. And yes, we need to choose a unique class. They are the Mercenary, the Herald, and the Assassin. Our choice will have major repercussions later, but for right now, it only affects our starting equipment. Given that, you might think we should choose the Mercenary. It's the only class that starts with a unique weapon. But I don't care about their starting weapons. I need to look at their stats. The Mercenary beats the Assassin handily. 2 extra dexterity, 1 less intelligence and faith. In most runs, this would not be a big deal because you can just level your stats. This is not most runs. But it isn't leveling that's banned. It's tired, old, boring stats that appear in Dark Souls 1 and 2. Vigor? Dark Souls 2. Attunement? Dark Souls 1 and 2. Endurance, Vitality? Both Dark Souls 1 and 2. Strength, Dex, Intelligence, Faith? All in Dark Souls 1 and 2. Luck? Luck is new. And that is why stats are so important. Because whatever they start at, except luck, they ain't changing. So what is 2 extra dexterity? 2 extra dexterity is the difference between wielding the Pontiff knife curved sword and not. Between wielding the Warden twin blades and not. Between wielding the Irithyll rapier. I think you get the idea. Now if we compare the Mercenary to the Herald, the answer isn't as clear. Trading 2 extra strength for 5 dexterity doesn't feel like a very good trade, but strength scales 1.5 times with 2-handing, and unlocks weapons that I'm hoping are better suited to this run, which I will get into later. The real reason I chose the Herald has nothing to do with strength at all, but I've said too much already. Given that the Herald starts with the spear, and the spear appears in every Dark Souls game, I won't have access to weapons before I fight Gundyr. Gundyr was actually way harder than I remember. I don't have access to a shield yet, and I've never really learned parry timings for my fists. Speaking of my fists, you might be thinking to yourself, why are you allowed to use your fists? Don't they appear in every Dark Souls game? And while your observation is correct, I can't exactly remove them. Which leads us to one of our most important rules. If any restriction makes any of the 3 games impossible to complete, the restricted thing becomes unrestricted in all 3 games. And thank God for this rule, because we need this bonfire to progress to the rest of the game. Did you know that there are only 2 mandatory bonfires in all 3 games? Firelink Altar and Firelink Shrine 2.0. Well, it's because of these bonfires that I'm allowed to rest at whichever bonfire I want, which is good. This run is long enough. Moving on, Vordt will be our second boss. Did you know you can kill Dancer before... Oh, we'll get to Dancer. But we're dealing with this asshole right now. Now I had a few options for Vordt. I could kill him with my fists, which would be tough and take a long time, or I could farm nearby enemies with my fists, until they drop a better weapon. So if I look at my options, I should find something worth using. Thing is, these aren't my options. These are. Oh, whoops. Those aren't supposed to be in there. But let's talk about them, because I think it's important. First, the Knight's Crossbow. You will not find another weapon called the Knight's Crossbow in Dark Souls 1 or 2. But can we not all agree that this is just a crossbow? I mean, look at it. It's just a crossbow. And the Lothric Knight Longspear? It's just a spear. Same thing goes for the Lothric Knight Sword, so I'm not going to be allowing myself to use any of these 3 items, which I imagine is going to cause a lot of contention when I talk about the 2 items that are remaining. Most of the shields in Dark Souls are pretty much the same, and it's because of this that I think these 2 shields are actually quite unique. If you compare them to other shields throughout the franchise, you won't find any with these patterns on them. Sure, they're still standard shield shapes. Let's be real, they're shields. But I think the patterns on them are just unique enough to warrant their inclusion. So, if I want to fight Vordt with a weapon, I need to farm Lothric Knights. Yeah, let's just kill him with our fists. Okay, let's get one of those shields. And Vordt goes down. A little side note, you might remember these chucklefucks from somewhere. Well, you can't beat the game without them, so... We're in the Undead Settlement now, and it's probably time to start thinking about our plans for the rest of the run. Let's start with the basics. For designing any build, I like to start with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you're not familiar with what that is, that's okay. It has nothing to do with Dark Souls. Each level of the pyramid is something your build needs to be a good build. In order to reach the top of the pyramid, thus completing your build, you need to first complete each level of the pyramid. You shouldn't try to reach any level of the pyramid before first filling all of the lower levels. Before health, you should get mobility. Before mobility, you should secure a weapon. We're going to dive right into damage, because we don't have any. There are a lot of ways to deal damage, but the best way is with melee weapons, and we're allowed those, so let's do that. I have 3 rules for determining whether an item is banned. If 2 items from different games have the same or a similar name, have the same appearance or a similar appearance, or are too generic to differentiate from each other, they aren't allowed. Here are all the melee weapons in Dark Souls 3, and once we account for names, appearances, stats, etc., we're left with a pretty manageable list of weapons. I'm interested in these 5. Why these 5? My dear boy. Recognize this asshole from anywhere? When I said I can't use anything from other games, I meant it. Frustratingly, Andre was given one hell of a lot of responsibilities in this game. He is the only blacksmith, so I'll never be able to upgrade any weapons. He's in charge of weapon infusions, so if I want poison, frostbite, or bleed, I have to find a weapon that already has it. Oh, and if I want my weapon to scale with luck, you know, the only stat I can level throughout this whole run, I can't fucking do that. And I hear you, Henri's straight sword! Henri's straight sword! Henri's straight sword! Here is a picture of Henri's straight sword. A sword so ununique, you didn't even notice. This isn't a picture of Henri's straight sword. This is a picture of Henri's straight sword. But of course, you knew that, right? Except, hold on. Those are both pictures of the Astora straight sword, one of which is from Dark Souls 1. This is Henri's straight sword. So no, I will not be allowing myself to use it. Let's get back to the weapons. Both Rotten Grew weapons are poisoned. That's obviously going to come in handy at some point. They're dropped by the same enemy, and I can farm that enemy right now. To be honest, they both do really shit damage, so I don't really care which one drops. While farming, I got into a pretty sticky situation. The Dark Sign, which I think was partially intended to save players who accidentally get stuck out of bounds, happens to be a staple of the series. The same goes for Homeward Bones. So if I can't get out of this on my own, this is a soft block, and I'll have to start a new character.
Hey.
Anyways, I got the stupid sword. Then there's the Irithyll Straight Sword. You probably know how good this sword is. It's one of the few weapons that naturally deals frostbite damage, and we just need to kill this Outrider Knight to get it. Next is Wolnir's Holy Sword. I think it has the highest damage out of all the weapons I can use. It's also the reason I picked the Herald, the only class with enough base faith to wield the sword effectively. Let's hope it's worth it, because I had to give up a lot of good weapons to unlock this baby. To get it, we just have to walk on down to Wolnir. Hang on. I think I forgot something. Where was I? Yes. Wolnir's Holy Sword. Wolnir isn't anything special in this challenge. Just aim for his bracelets, and quit out anytime he does this. Oh, and don't die. Of course, now that we have Wolnir's soul, we have to actually turn it into a weapon, which requires killing the cursed rotted Greatwood. I gotta be honest, not really looking forward to this fight. There's a lot of enemy spam, and a lot of crazy, hard-to-dodge attacks that I need to dodge. So all in all, there's a lot of ways to take damage, and not a lot of ways to prevent them. Did I mention that we can't use Estus? Surprisingly, it only took a few tries to take him down. And with that, we have access to what I thought at the time was the best weapon for this run. Let's go kill something with it. Or not? Sure, let's just kill the Crystal Sage first. It's not like we killed that boss for a reason. Since Dark Souls 3 can be a bit railroady at times, the next boss on our list is Deacons of the Deep. What about dance? No! If you've ever fought this boss with low damage before, you know as well as I do that I am not looking forward to this. It's time to put on our helmets and start bashing our heads into the wall. This will be a common theme for this challenge, as it is the only real strategy that I know. Deacons is the defining example of enemy spam. The entire fight is enemy spam. The Deacons can shoot fireballs at you, or tackle you, or hit you with their little crucifixes, or my personal favorite, charge a gigantic death ball that I can't dodge and kills me instantly. But apparently the developers of this game kinda know what they're doing. Thanks to their foresight, we have access to the Pontiff's left eye ring, which heals us for hitting lots of enemies. It's crazy. It's actually just the perfect solution to what seemed like an insurmountable problem. Too many enemies got you down? Uh-huh. Can't use Estus to negate their stupid attacks? Nuh-uh. Try the Pontiff's left eye ring. It's literally exactly what you need. Gee, thanks, mister.
What the hell just happened?
Anyways, the Deacons are dead. With Irithyll open, I elected to get the easiest boss out of the way, Yhorm the Giant. Since Storm Ruler is a weapon from Demon Souls, there's no issue. And interestingly enough, there are 0 stat requirements on this weapon. Pontiff Sullivan, Sullivan, I don't know. Pontiff the Soulmeister is an absolute masterclass in good boss design. Is he tough? You bet your ass he is. Is he brutal? Hell yeah. Is he a beautiful soul that is oh so satisfying to conquer? Shit yeah. The Soulmeister is everything you want in a boss. What's that? This is a challenge run where you have no health, can't heal, and have no damage? Oh no. Forget everything I just said. Fuck this guy. Except, maybe don't. Because I had a blast. Let me break down the basic strategy. First, you're going to want to die a few times. This may seem like an unnecessary step, but I assure you, the deaths are imperative to your success. These first few deaths are to teach you a lesson. What lesson? Stay the fuck away from him. He's dangerous. Don't do it. Remember, you cannot dodge his attacks. We're going to call this strategy, maintain the status quo. Remember that for later. Whenever I say, maintain the status quo, I want you to think, keep your distance, be patient, wait for a parryable attack. Now that Sully has beaten this fact into you, you're ready to actually start the fight. Now would be a good time to get the necessary gear together. You'll need 1 high damage weapon, 1 parry shield, I chose the Hawkwood shield, but you can use whatever you'd like, and an inquisitive mind. Trust me, that last one is important. Now, before you go barging into the chapel, you need to know your modus operandi. Your goal. I don't know if that's actually what modus operandi means, but it fucking sounds cool, doesn't it? Step 1. Parry, riposte. Step 2. Maintain the status quo. Repeat. It's important to note, this is not national treasure.
Status quo has changed, son.
Under no circumstances are you to allow the status quo to change. To do this, always keep Sully at a respectful distance. For whatever reason, when you're this far away from him, he can't do anything else. The only move, pinging around in this dude's brain at this distance, is one very parryable attack. Give him no choice, let him dream of nothing else. And when he does, parry, riposte, maintain the status quo. It is at this point that you will start to reach the second phase of the fight, better known as when shit gets real. And this is when you realize that this is actually national treasure. This son of a bitch changes all the rules, learns new spells, all kinds of crazy shit. There's fucking 2 of them. Don't listen to John Voight. Maintain the status quo. I don't care how many of them there are. This is where you're going to need to get lucky. Hey, good thing we got lots of that. The Soulmeister is allowed to do whatever crazy shenanigans he wants to. You just keep baiting that parry. And if you're a total badass, it just works. But let's rewind the clock a little. Probabilities are often independent, which means the more lucky events you want to string together, the less likely that string of events becomes. So to reduce the amount of luck involved, you want to reduce Sully's health as much as possible before the second phase. Here's the strategy that worked for me. Remove Lloyd's sword ring before the fight. Parry the opening attack, riposte. While riposting, open the menu and re-equip the ring as soon as you're able. Bait, parry, and riposte 2 more attacks. He should now be on the precipice of switching phases. 1 more parry and riposte and he'll be about as low as he can get. We now enter the only period of the fight where you are not to maintain the status quo. Swing at him 2 times, if possible. This is generally safe, because if you set everything up properly, you know he has no choice but to enter phase 2. Next, roll backwards to avoid the AoE of his phase transition. When he stands back up, chase him down and get in 4 more swings while he summons his phantom image. You should now revert to maintaining the status quo. All that's left is to get roughly 3 good ripostes in. Remember, it is very unlikely to get 3 parryable attacks in a row. Factor in the bullshit he can choose to do instead, and you're in for a grind. Be patient. Here's how this went for me.
Oh, whoops. Alright, this is not going to be a great run. Get his health to the right level to get extra damage in before he starts phase 2. Nice. Now just do what I want you to do, not that. Yeah, we don't punish this attack anymore because I've learned against. Yeah, that's the thing I want. Oh, that's a little shitty. Need from you. Okay, we're a little too close now. We're kind of stuck. Perfect. Oh my god. Well, we're alive. We're alive. Doesn't matter. Now just parryable attack, please. That's fine. Just wastes time. We did it. Oh.
And now it's time to talk about the biggest piece of shit in the entire game. That's right. I am of course referring to Dancer of the Boreal Valley. Dancer is far from the most difficult of bosses. She isn't the worst designed boss, but my god, is she the #1 killer of challenge runs. She doesn't achieve this through technicalities, like Yhorm, who ruins most other challenge runs with the whole Storm Ruler gimmick. She ruins challenge runs with pure tenacity. It's truly commendable how much effort Dancer puts into her craft. Let's start from the beginning. When you first enter the fight, she is perfectly content traipsing around the room, completely disregarding you and your attacks. Which seems fine, until it isn't. You see, Dancer is extremely devious. She's clearly familiar with the mistakes of her predecessors, such as Gwyn and Pontiff the Soulmeister, both of which start every fight with the exact same attack. Not only is this a very bad idea, because it allows the player to practice over and over, neither of these dumbasses even lead with a good attack. But Dancer sees even further beyond this logic. Dancer is the embodiment of Satan, offering you the world in exchange for one insignificant, trivial price: your soul. All the hits you could ever dream of. Come one, come all, take as many as you'd like. Regardless of what you choose, patience or bloodthirst, you will always be left paying a deep mental toll, which will leave you vulnerable for the rest of the fight. Patience? A wise choice. As the seconds drone on, Dancer is still wandering around the room. You could strike her down right here. What a waste. Choose patience now, and greed will surely overcome you later. Bloodthirst? How naughty. There's nothing wrong with taking what you're due. Take 2 hits, 3 hits. Oh, you feel it now, don't you? But sooner or later, you're going to slip up. Was it worth it? You've lost the edge of the one item that makes this fight bearable. Lloyd's Sword Ring. Without it, your attacks seem like playful slaps. And if you want that damage back, you're going to have to fight for it. Pontiff's left eye is pushing you to take greater and greater risks, all in the hopes you'll regain that which you so foolishly threw away. And if you succeed, you're only back to where you started. By now, it's time for Phase 2, where Dancer harvests whatever fruit has grown from the seeds of doubt she planted in your mind. On top of Dancer's mind games, she has the most incomprehensible moveset I have ever seen. How the actual fuck are you supposed to dodge this attack? I've tried so many times, and I'll be honest, I have no idea. After a few miserable sessions of this torture, I gave up. For several months. I didn't want to have anything to do with this fight. I devoted my time to other projects, like editing these videos together. Or being happy. You know, regular life stuff. But everyone kept saying how they really wanted to see the next video, and well, I said I was going to do this challenge, so let's get this over with. I don't want to talk about it. What can I say about Dragonslayer Armour? I guess first would be, no, this is not Ornstein. And no, this is not Bjornstein either. This is clearly a unique boss with a new exciting aesthetic. So killing this boss does not invalidate the run, nor should it. Because killing all bosses is required. Now I was coming to this fight from a bit of a hiatus, and I needed to get my bearings a little. So I was going through the motions. It wasn't exactly going well, when someone suggested that I use the Irithyll Straightsword. Now, people are always trying to give me stupid advice for beating bosses. Half the time they don't even realize that the thing they're suggesting is banned, but I read their comment, and I was like, I'm a fucking idiot, of course that's what I should be doing. After that, it was just a matter of killing this fucking boss whilst Chaos Butterflies are coming at me from all goddamn angles. The second phase of this fight is actually insane. Screw Giant Lord. This is the real camera boss. There aren't really any useful audio cues here to determine how to dodge, and you have 3 different bosses to keep an eye on. It really is a test of your ability to keep a cool head while a hailstorm of shit is coming down on top of you. But eventually, you put enough time in, and the stars kinda just magically align. You don't really feel good about it, but you feel less like shit. Which is almost the same thing, I guess. Anyways, with Dragonslayer Armour out of the way, I was free to fight my favorite boss in the Dark Souls series. Lothric and The door's locked. No, I've played this game before. I knew the door would be locked. I know all 3 Lord Souls have to be collected before the key will spawn. I was kinda just hoping that I would never ever have to fight Aldrich ever again for any reason. But I couldn't avoid it any longer. It was time to kill Oceiros. Because as much as Oceiros is a little shit, he's my little shit. You know? Now there isn't really that much nuance to the Oceiros fight, and we could sit here all day and debate whether or not he is actually holding an invisible dragon baby that he spends the entire first phase building up as his perfect little baby boy, only to slam it into the ground with all the affection of an abused circus elephant, just to fight me unencumbered of the woes of being a good father. I'm not saying he isn't holding an invisible dragon baby. I'm just saying that if he is, it doesn't make any goddamn sense. Anyways, once all 4 limbs are free, the real fight begins. And by real fight, I do mean shit show. Now pretty much everything Oceiros can throw at you is simple, easy to understand, and most importantly, dodgeable. Everything except for this attack. There is no warning, there is no wind-up, there is no tell. There is only 5,000 pounds of crazy, crack-addicted dragon being thrust directly into my body at Mach 5 and attacking my life points directly. I cannot survive this. So how did I beat him? Allow me to explain. This is a picture of Oceiros. Clearly, he is not in control of his mental faculties. So he has a crazy, ridiculous, overpowered move that can kill me at any second. And he just forgot. Let's move on. Tucked away behind an illusory wall, you'll find some of the most confusing lore in the Dark Souls series. That's right, I'm talking about Champion Gundyr. Oh, also I forgot to mention earlier, I got my hands on a torch, and for a bunch of reasons that nobody has time to get into, I can use it. And basically this torch increases my DPS by like a factor of 3, which is super helpful and a little broken. Coming back to Gundyr, it doesn't really matter that much, because we're just going to parry the shit out of him. But because of the torch, we don't have to parry as much. Also, for some reason, riposts apply frostbite twice. Once when the blade goes in, and once when you pull it out. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, but Gundyr being here doesn't really make a whole lot of sense either. I mean, this is supposed to be a dark version of the world where the bell never rang to awaken the chosen undead, and somehow that makes all the enemies stronger, and we can just travel there through an illusory wall at the back of our reality, and the Firekeeper of this reality is dead, and we can take their eyes back to our Firekeeper, but the problem is Firekeepers aren't supposed to have eyes, so why would a dead Firekeeper have any eyes left to collect? My point being, I don't know, he's dead. Continuing on with the theme of, I'd rather fight any other boss right now than Aldrich, we're going to take on the Ancient Wyvern. Hard boss. And then we'll try Old Demon King on for size. He's a little more in-depth than Ancient Wyvern, on account of him actually having attacks, and a health bar that matters. Trying to fight him straight up wasn't really feeling like an option. He has a bunch of really fast attacks that can be really hard to dodge when you're right next to them and have very little time to react. Plus, in the later stages of the fight, he has his one attack that summons a ring of fire around him that slowly moves inward, which as far as I can tell is just undodgeable. So I settled on 1 or 2 predictable, easy to dodge, easy to punish, longer range attacks to exploit. I kept my distance the whole fight, and there really aren't that many things that can go wrong. Now you do have to be careful of his final phase. I was aware there was an AoE explosion, as well as that he's capable of a few swipes while he's writhing on the ground in pain. I just forgot how quickly the explosion happens. Catch me once, shame on me. Catch me twice, not on your life. I was running out of non-Aldrich bosses pretty quickly, but I'll be damned if I'm going to fight Aldrich before Nameless King. Let's go. King of the Storm feels a lot more like a buffer than he does a boss. And after a few warm-ups, I was more than capable of taking him down semi-consistently. I'm more or less one-shottable to all his attacks, and my damage still isn't great. So it's like a 2-minute attention span test every time I want to face off against the real boss. It's been years since we last faced each other, and my timings were a bit off. Okay, way off. The majority of his attacks are also one-shots, which means I lose another 2+ minutes of my life for every mistake. But after enough attempts, I really started to get a feel for when I could, and could not, get 1 or 2 hits in. For most attacks, the number was a lot closer to 0. Not because it wasn't possible to get a hit in, but because the margins for recognizing the opportunity for the hit and actually performing it were a little tight. This is an issue with a lot of bosses in this game. A lot of attacks that bosses do look like they can be punished, and on several attempts you will successfully get away with getting a hit in, but the problem is you don't actually know how the boss is going to follow up the attack. Which leads to the smart decision being not following up those moves with an attack, because it just isn't worth losing all your progress. This isn't the biggest issue with Nameless King, however. Nameless King's problem is his overhead AoE slam attack. The problem lies in the unpredictability of the lightning bolts that follow up the actual attack. They shoot off in a bunch of directions, and if you pick the correct place to stand, you can actually get a lot of free hits in on Nameless King. Except, there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to which rotational direction these bolts spread out from. It doesn't seem to be tied to the direction that Nameless King is facing, otherwise I'd have just been able to hide behind or beside him every time. Here, you can clearly see that the lightning left space on either side of Nameless King. And here, the lightning clipped his left side, which would have hit me in the previous example. Finally, in these examples, the lightning shoots right through to his back. So I can't get hit on the left. I previously showed an example of me getting hit on the right, and I can get hit while behind him. I can't find a consistent safe spot for this attack. Anyways, I can usually take about 2 hits from these lightning bolts without dying, and I figured it'd be more productive to just pretend the lightning wouldn't hit me. I didn't really have time to learn yet another really precise timing, especially considering there didn't seem to be any extra damage I would gain out of doing so, and I just kinda hoped that I wouldn't get hit by this attack that much. And hey, I think it panned out. Okay, now we're really running out of non-Aldrich bosses. I could have fought Sister Frida, which I did a few times, but I was not making what you might call progress. I couldn't even manage to get to the second phase. So it's time to fight Aldrich. Yay! My strategy going into this fight was pretty complicated. Then all I had to do was enact my master plan, which did not go, how do you say, according to plan. Now I could go into an in-depth explanation of every attack Aldrich can do, and how you can dodge it, except wait, no I can't, because I have no idea how to do that. That's right, I just winged it. I can't really take all the credit here, or any of it. I watched another no-hit guide, and the advice? Deal approximately 1600 to 1900 damage to the boss. Bait out melee attacks by standing at a specific distance from the boss. Wait for one where you can punish with like 6 hits, and then proceed to skip the entire second phase of the boss with a fully upgraded weapon. Shit. So what did we learn? Not even the no-hit people think this is a fair boss fight, and those guys are fucking insane. So how did I deal with this problem? I don't know. Kinda just smashed my head against the wall for like 3 hours, and eventually the boss kinda just died. So that was cool, I guess. And now it's time for the greatest boss in the entire Souls series. Why do I like Lothric and Lorian so much? I don't know. Maybe because the soundtrack is super dope, or it's an example of how a duo boss fight should be executed. You see this right here, Miyazaki? You see what you did here? That's right, your bosses are tethered together, which means their attacks can't stray from a predictable pattern, which means you don't have to try and balance for all the millions of combinations and permutations of all the different attacks with different timings executed by 2 separate AIs being run in tandem with each other, which results in, according to my calculations, a 100% drop in the amount of bullshit that this boss is able to dump all over you. Write that down. Where was I? Right. Let's talk about the actual fight, shall we? Now I had to deviate a little from my usual strategy. I know y'all loved the whole torch strat, but for some reason, me not having the prerequisite stats to wield the torch only becomes an issue when I'm fighting Lorian. On every other boss I tried it on, the torch cuts through them like butter. But when I try to smack Lorian with it, it glances off his armor, and I stagger. And even though it's only a few more frames where I'm left vulnerable, Lorian is like super weak to frostbite. Like 2 hits weak. I can't really afford to be taking this many chances, or waiting longer for better attack opportunities. And instead, I just found a better weapon for the job. Introducing the soldering iron, which doesn't seem like it'd have low stat requirements, but I stopped questioning things like that a long time ago. Now that we have the proper equipment, we can start to mess him up. Lothric starts the second phase with a barrage of magic. But before the magic chases you down, Lorian teleports towards you with one of a few possible attacks. During his teleport, you have very little time to prepare yourself. I find it best to run perpendicular to the direction of the magic, and dodge any attacks from Lorian. Of course, this is easier said than done. It's a very chaotic attack. Afterwards, you can fight Lorian as before, but this time, your goal is to kill Lothric. This is the main reason I love this fight. You can still kill Lorian, but you are rewarded for understanding proper spacing and the hitbox of both your weapon and the boss. As it happens, straight swords are not the best weapon for hitting Lothric's hitbox, but they are the best weapon I have. Eventually, I realized my best chance would be to kill Lorian as much as possible, and attack Lothric while Lorian is dead. A quick side note. You may have noticed that I fight a lot of bosses without locking on. Not locking on generally gives you more control, but at the cost of requiring you to exercise that control. So while you have to sacrifice a finger occasionally to control the camera, you can more precisely maneuver your character, allowing you to dodge more effectively and sometimes get more hits in. Why am I telling you this? I usually fight the princes unlocked. It's a much more dangerous strategy, given the camera does a lot of heavy lifting by automatically turning towards Lorian when he teleports, but it also allows you to position ever so slightly more behind him. This would normally allow me to get a lot more hits in on Lothric, but with my health being as low as it is, I just can't afford it. So instead of relying on pure skill to finish the second phase as quickly as possible, I elected to draw out the fight as much as possible. Also, because it has been so long since I last played this game, I forgot my normal strategy, spent the entire time relearning how to do the fight while locked on, tried it out once near the end of my grind, and quickly realized I was already committed. I can't be too upset about it though. After all, I really love this boss. It's been a long road, folks, and we're almost at the end. Only one boss stands between me and victory. There's a lot to talk about here. Soul of Cinder has 4 unique movesets, which he switches between randomly. Straight Sword, Spear, Curved Sword, and Staff. Out of these 4, none of them are good for us. The Straight Sword form is by far the safest. There are several opportunities to get damage in, but it is also the most diverse moveset, requiring a lot of attention to properly dodge and punish. The Curved Sword form is by far the most boring. You can consistently dodge every attack at the cost of dealing next to no damage. The Spear form is by far the worst. Dodging requires both incredibly precise timing and positioning, and on top of this, he can cast a miracle which can heal about a quarter of his health. Finally, the Staff form is by far the most toxic. It is the easiest to dodge, allows you to get the most damage in, and requires very little skill. But one move in particular sinks its grimy little claws into every other form, and makes them absolutely miserable. 3 of the 4 forms have buffs, which can be carried over to other forms. Each of these buffs will wear off over time, but can be dispelled with a stagger. Power Within gives a damage boost which causes a grand total of 0 moves to one-shot me where they did not before. The Healing Miracle sucks. If I do not manage to stagger during the casting time, the fight is extended by about 2 minutes. And Homing Crystal Soul Mass is a virus. As long as you can keep it contained, everything is fine. but should it spread to other forms, run. None of this would be an issue if I could consistently stagger him. Unfortunately, the Irithyll Straightsword does not deal a lot of poise damage. On top of this, the first phase can last incredibly long, on account of my low damage, need to play the fight reasonably safe, and my inability to consistently stagger him out of his heal. But what really compounds all of these issues on top of each other is Phase 2. After dealing with all of that shit, I have to learn a completely different moveset, and it's been a while. I don't remember if it's easier to fight him close up or far away, if I can get a hit in here or after there. I don't remember if his longest combo is 3 or 5, and I definitely didn't remember that his big overhead wind-up moves had this much of a delay on them. I'm sure there's a consistent way to get hits in and remain relatively safe, but I don't know what it is. And every time I want to guess, I have to go through this gauntlet of shit and bet it all on red. This fight broke me. Or I should say, it almost broke me. I took some time off to get some editing done. I wrote this script, played other games, watched movies, and then one day, a thought popped into my head. It was the same thought that had been plaguing me for the past week. What if I do some more attempts? It never felt right. But today, something was different. Today, the thought of fighting Cinder for hours on end didn't make me want to stab my eyes out with a fork. And that's just what I did. Put in some attempts, not blinded myself with a kitchen utensil. It was a new me. Well, it was me, but there was no frustration. I knew it needed to be done, because I had done it so many times before. I would have to learn this boss like I learn everything in life. One death at a time, baby. One death at a time. Lesson 1. Lightning sucks. Lesson 2. Lightning really sucks. Lesson 3. Stay focused. Lesson 4. Don't do that. Lesson 5. Also don't do that. Lightning sucks. Lightning really sucks. Stay focused. Normally, I would play the live audio at this point, but there isn't any. Oh, I recorded it. It just isn't anything. Put yourself in my shoes for a second. This is the final boss of Dark Souls 3. Your 3-game challenge run is almost over. Manus couldn't stop you. Ludden Zalin couldn't stop you. And now Soul of Cinder is fighting for his life. It's over. Finish it. And I know what you're thinking. Wasn't this challenge supposed to be all bosses? Dun dun.